recording started. Our next speaker will delve into the power of community and mutual support in the tech industry. Please welcome Naomi, who will be presented on Lift as We Rise, Woman Champion Woman in Tech. So, you're welcome, and I think it will be something super interesting, super exciting. You can share your screen.
Thank you so much, Anna. It's lovely to meet you in person finally. Okay. Let's see.
Perfect.
How is that?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. And Anna, I know we have a small group right now. Do you monitor the chat just in case there's any questions as we go? Or should I be paying attention to that?
I'll check chat, so don't worry. If someone asking any questions at the end of your talk, I will duplicate them or read these questions.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. As Anna mentioned, I am Naomi Latini Wolfe. I am thrilled to be here. I am a sociology professor, an inclusive educational technology specialist, and a proud Women Techmaker Ambassador. I am deeply passionate about innovation, empowerment, and creating spaces where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued. So today we're going to be discussing a topic that is very close to my heart, how we can lift each other up as we navigate the tech landscape as women. It's not just about breaking barriers, of course, it's about building bridges, supporting each other, and creating a future where all of us can thrive. Just a little bit about what drives me. I have spent over 15 years in education, working to create inclusive classrooms and developing ed tech solutions that empower learners from all walks of life. I've taught at all different kinds of universities in all different kinds of places. And I'm incredibly passionate about making those learning spaces equitable for everyone. And to me, the work that I do is not about me, really. It's about us, the collective energy, passion, and determination that we bring to the table. And I am in coastal Georgia, by the way. If anyone is interested in sharing where they're from, I would be, I'd love to know where the group is coming from in the chat. Okay, so on our agenda today, we're going to talk about redefining possible, the theme of that and what that means. And then we're going to talk about overcoming barriers, taking challenges head on, how we can support each other through those. We're going to talk about the power of support, why mentorship, sponsorship, networking, and other strategies are more important than ever. We will talk about actionable strategies to not just lift ourselves up, but lift others up, right? Lifting as we rise, amplifying voices, ensuring that everyone is seen, heard, and valued. And then we'll have a call to action with how we can all contribute to a more inclusive tech future. Okay. Redefining possible. So let's talk about how women are shaping the future of AI, because it's happening. Women are not just participating in tech. We are driving innovation and ensuring that the technology we create is inclusive and representative of diverse communities. From AI research to development, women are broadening perspectives and making sure these advancements benefit everyone. And we are not just breaking barriers, we are setting new standards for what's possible, right? Redefining what's possible. So for this International Women's Day event, we are celebrating the trailblazers who've paved the way for me and countless other women who are redefining the limits of what's possible every day. And the way that we keep this momentum going, in my opinion, is fostering inclusive environments, as I mentioned before, where everybody not just feels heard and valued, but also feels uplifted. It's about empowerment, for me. And that path to empowerment, which these are the things, kind of the path that we're going to take today, built on 5 key steps: redefining the landscape. So this is about challenging the norms, pushing boundaries, and creating spaces where women don't just participate, but they lead and innovate. Building bridges of support is our second step, because we can't do this alone. We need strong networks where women can lean on each other, share experiences, and find guidance. Next, elevating voices and stories, as we covered a little bit already. And then we're going to get into taking bold steps forward, being proactive, taking risks, and advocating not just for ourselves, but for others. To finally get to creating a legacy of inclusion, because we're not just building for today. We're creating a future where inclusivity is the norm, not the exception. And these steps are not linear. They often overlap. But by focusing kind of on these steps, we can create meaningful change and lift as we rise together. Okay. So we cannot redefine anything if we don't address the barriers that are in place. So let's dive in and get these out of the way. It's important to be honest here, because the journey for women in tech is not always smooth. Women encounter significant obstacles, as I'm sure you all have as women, and I definitely have as well. Some of these obstacles are visible and some are less visible. They range from systemic biases ingrained in workplace cultures to personal challenges of balancing work with all of our other responsibilities. And I would love to know from the group, if you'd like to put it in the chat, some of the barriers that you have faced personally as a woman, trying to, attempting, not just attempting, but, as you're succeeding, what are the barriers and the obstacles that you faced? I'd love for us to all learn from each other. And we're going to cover a few of those. So the barriers for women's advancement in technology, we are talking about things like systemic gender bias. That is the bias that's baked into many of the systems and structures of organizations. This can affect hiring, promotion, and even day-to-day interactions. Cultural stereotypes, the preconceived notions about what women can or should do. And of course, these limit opportunities and create pressures for us to conform. Lack of mentorship opportunities, because it can be difficult to navigate career paths and advance without guidance and support from other experienced professionals. I'm sure all of us are aware that women have compounded responsibilities at home. We often have a disproportionate share of family and household responsibilities, which can, of course, make it difficult to dedicate time and energy to our career advancement. And hostile work environments. Unfortunately, some workplaces, especially for tech, can be unwelcoming or even hostile to women, which can lead to discomfort, isolation, attrition. These are things that are important to not just understand, and we definitely don't want to be discouraged, but we want to be, like I said, honest and prepared. Recognizing these challenges is the first step towards dismantling them. As I mentioned, we can't redefine anything until we understand what it is that we're defining and why presentations like this are even necessary in the first place. We have to have solutions to help us break through those things. So in the next slides, we're going to talk just a little bit more about these barriers, some of the data behind them, and then, of course, how we can work to overcome them. So let's take a minute to look at the numbers here because, they tell a story that we just simply can't ignore. First, only 26% of the global computing workforce are women. So 74% of the international workforce in computing are not women. That would be all other genders. And this isn't just a gap, it's a glaring underrepresentation of women in tech. Another impactful statistic, 38% of women in tech report feeling unsuccessful or hindered in their careers. And why is that? The challenges that we just talked about, gender biases, lack of mentorship, and unsupportive environments that they feel are holding them back. And it's important to remember that these aren't just statistics, right? They're the experiences of real women. Just 18% of tech leadership roles are held by women. 18%. This massive lack of representation at the top has a ripple effect that reinforces some of those cultural narratives that we talked about. It shapes policies. It impacts opportunities for women at all levels. Again, these aren't just data points, right? They're a call to action. They're a reminder of why conversations like this one about lifting others as we rise are so critical. And here's the great thing about this is that we can change these numbers. So in the next few slides, I want to talk a little bit about how we can take action to create a more equitable and inclusive future in tech. Every percentage point matters, right? I'm a professor, so I tell my students that all the time. Every single percentage point matters, and every woman's success is worth fighting for, which is what we're all doing here today. So let's talk about that. We've talked about the challenges, but let's shift gears and talk about something incredibly powerful, and that is the strength that we can find in supporting one another. And I keep clicking the wrong button. I would love if anyone is interested, I would love to hear, you can put it in the chat, just reflecting on the power of support for ourselves. You can think back to a time in your own journey, whether it's tech, whatever, or just life in general. How have other women shaped your path? You could consider, what's the earliest memory you have of a woman championing you? Or just on the top of your head, if someone said you have 3 seconds, how many women can you think of right now that have lifted you up, believed in you, opened doors for you? I mean, the names just keep coming. So I would love to have that celebration in the chat if anyone has anything they'd like to share. This quote, women supporting women in tech, isn't just a moral imperative, it's a strategic advantage. This quote was inspired by ALX Africa's Empowering Women in Tech article, which discusses the importance of diversity and innovation. But the quote stands alone as a powerful statement. It highlights that when we lift each other up, we not only fulfill an ethical duty, but also create significant advantages for ourselves and for the industry as a whole, as we're going to see in the next few slides as we explore the individual, organizational, and systemic impact of supporting women in tech. And it definitely is a strategic advantage. So let's get into it. Let's talk first about the power of individual support. When women support women, the benefits are profound and deeply personal. First, shared experiences reduce isolation. I imagine all of us here today have felt the weight of imposter syndrome at one point or another, or just a loneliness of being the only woman in a room. I just had a highly successful colleague of mine message me a couple days ago, and she said, I'm at this conference. There's 30 people, leaders in this room. and I am the only woman in here. And that's just not acceptable. So when we share our stories, asking you guys to put those things in the chat and that type of thing, it helps us to realize we're not alone. It helps us create that sense of community and belonging. That's really empowering. It also gives us practical advice for workplace challenges, whether you're navigating a raise, navigating a difficult colleague, trying to find work-life balance, etc. Having a supportive network individually gives us strategies from the real world from women who have been there. Emotional support and resilience. Facing bias and discrimination is incredibly emotionally draining, but when we have a supportive network of women, we gain a safe space to process, heal, and gain the resilience that we need to keep going. Excuse me. When we unite, our voices are louder and our impact is greater. And these individual impacts don't just stop with us, they create a ripple effect. This is how we lift as we rise. The organizational impact, remember we said it's not just a moral calling. I don't remember what the exact phrasing of that quote was, but a strategic advantage, right? So we've talked about how supporting women transforms lives individually, but let's talk about how it transforms organizations, because as we see, when women thrive, everyone benefits, starting with a profitability boost. This is a stat that's hard to ignore. Companies with gender diverse teams outperform their competitors by 21% in profitability. And that's just not a feel-good fact, it's a bottom line imperative. Diversity drives innovation, which leads to better decision making and ultimately greater financial success. Another impactful statistic, 70% of women in tech say that allyship from their colleagues positively impacts their career. And when someone is successful in their career, guess what? The organization that they're working for is also succeeding. So when women feel supported and valued, they're more likely to thrive, and those benefits trickle over into the entire organization. Supporting women is not just the right thing to do, it's a smart thing to do. It enhances company performance, boosts employee satisfaction, and creates environments where everyone can succeed. When we invest in women, we're not just investing in individuals, right? We're investing in the future of organizations and the future of the tech industry as a whole. And these are kind of just an overview of those organizational impacts that I just mentioned, all of which are supported by scholarly research, which I just find wonderful. It is such an amazing feeling when the science and the data supports your kind of what you feel in your heart. I love it. And systemically, we're talking about these things trickling over. So if we zoom out even further to the systemic impact of women in tech, this is about creating a better future for everybody. Driving innovation. When we bring diverse perspectives to the table, we unlock a wealth of new ideas and solutions to problems. Women, especially those from diverse backgrounds, lead to more creative problem solving and technologies that are inclusive and impactful. That point about diversity, also supported by tons of evidence, is just logical if you think about it. If I have trying to come up with some solution to a problem I'm having in my teaching career, for example, if every woman there grew up in the same place, or if all the people in that brainstorming session grew up in the same town, went to the same school, have had all the same experiences as me, we're probably going to have similar ideas. It is necessary to have those diverse thoughts in those processes, as it's going to give us more creative solutions. Inspiring future generations, we become or are role models for young women and girls. We can show them that they too can achieve their dreams in tech. This is something I heard Anna say earlier in a presentation, something about, by being role models and being able to, just by being here. I heard someone in the comments earlier saying, this was a dream come true to be able to talk face to face. And I think for some of us, it's easy for us to forget the impact that we can have on one another. But as we can see here, it's not an impact that we should forget. It's incredible and inspiring. Okay. And okay, sorry, making sure I'm on point. We already talked about how gender diverse leadership teams lead to better financial outcomes. And so these systemic changes are not just about making tech better for women, they're about making industries better for everyone. When we prioritize women, we prioritize diversity and inclusion, we are creating a more vibrant, innovative, and responsible industry that can benefit society as a whole. Which is, I guess this is kind of what I've just said. When women support other women, we don't just empower individuals, we transform entire industries. And this is absolutely true. And it captures the essence of everything that we've discussed up to this point. Women supporting women isn't just, profound, it's transformative. Every act of support, every moment of solidarity creates ripples that extend far beyond ourselves. Together, we're not just lifting each other up, we're reshaping industries and the world for the better. And I can tell you a quick short story. Excuse me, the pollen here, not only are there tornadoes, but the pollen is also really bad. When I was in graduate school, one of my advisors, a woman, Dr. Lowney, she gave me a reference letter for my first teaching job. And she said, keep this reference letter, change it however you want to, keep the base of it, but change the dates, change who it's going to, and you can use this recommendation letter for as long as I am living. And I thought, wow, that was nice, but I would never do that. I definitely did do that. I used it, and it opened so many doors for me. And so about 5 years ago, I remembered that, and I did the same thing for one of my students. I would not have thought to do that if it had not been done for me. And I was able to see the impact that had on her, right? Passing it on. So these things are true, the ripple effects of our actions. So we've talked about challenges, we've talked about the power of support. And so now for the second half of this, I want to get practical and dive into some of the key strategies that each of us can use to lift as we rise. And these things that we're going to be talking about are not just abstract ideas, they're actionable strategies that we can take starting today. So first, these are kind of the three things that we're going to talk about. We will talk about mentorship, what it looks like, why it's effective, and how you can either find a mentor or become one. Then we will talk about sponsorship, which is about opening doors and championing women's career growth. We're going to discuss how sponsorship can empower women looking to advance in tech. And then we will talk about building networks, both in person and online networking, and how to build relationships that matter. So, actionable strategy number 1, mentorship. What exactly is mentorship? A mentorship is a powerful relationship where experience meets aspiration. It's about a mentor, someone with more experience, guiding a mentee, someone seeking growth through shared knowledge and support and a genuine desire to see them succeed. And mentorship, the same things apply here that we talked about earlier. It's not just about individuals. It's a game changer for organizations too. By pairing experienced professionals with those seeking guidance, we are creating that ripple impact of learning, empowerment, and innovation. And this is why mentorship matters. For career advancements, mentors can guide mentees toward promotions, help them develop crucial skills, and open doors to new opportunities. Leadership development, mentors also benefit by refining their own leadership and communication skills. And you can gain feedback to be able to make that improvement through your mentorships. Mentorship programs on an organizational level improve employee retention, boost productivity, and enhance diversity, again, leading to a more vibrant company culture. It's a win-win for everybody. So let's talk about some of the data here that supports this, the impact of mentorship. And the numbers speak for themselves. For promotions, women with mentors are 34% more likely to receive promotions than women without mentorship. That's a huge difference. Job satisfaction, women report higher job satisfaction and increased leadership aspirations when they have a mentor. It's not just about climbing the ladder, right? It's about the feeling that we get, the fulfillment and the confidence that we can gain from being mentored. Because when you have a mentor, you have someone who believes in you, who encourages you, and helps you see your own potential, which can be and is life-changing. So these statistics kind of speak for themselves, right, as why it's such a crucial strategy. And for those of you that are interested in getting involved in mentorship as a mentor or a mentee, I've included here some fantastic organizations that are specifically for women in tech. These include Tech Ladies, Latinas in Tech, Code First Girls, Women in AI, Women Techmakers, of course, Black Women in Tech, as well as Lesbian Who Tech, and Allies. These are just some of the organizations supporting mentorship or offering mentorship and opportunities for women in tech specifically. If anyone has others that they would like to share in the chat, I would love to know those. I'm actually going to because I'm going to share other organizations here in just a moment for some of our other actionable strategies. And I plan to compile these and then I can share them with Anna and she can share them with the whole group. So feel free to add others if you can think of them. Okay, let's move on to our second actionable strategy, and that is sponsorship. Sponsorship is different from mentorship, whereas mentorship is about guidance and advice. Sponsorship is more about action and advocacy, because it's not just about supporting someone, it's actively using your influence to create opportunities for them. A sponsor is someone who will say, I recommend this person. I can personally vouch for this person. They champion you for promotions, recommend you for projects that are high visibility, and advocate for you to take on leadership roles, which can open doors that might otherwise stay closed. Sponsorship has been increasingly recognized as a crucial mechanism for advancing women in tech, as it promotes visibility, enhances professional development, and accelerates the journey for leadership roles. So to think about kind of the difference between those, we can kind of think like mentors guide, whereas sponsors act. Now, of course, a sponsor can also guide and a mentor can also act, but that's kind of a good delineation for understanding, and both are beneficial and actively invested in your success. So let's explore how this can transform careers and workplaces. Some of the tangible impacts or for sponsorship for women in tech. Again, all validated with scientific data. Women who are sponsored, when there's sponsorship, there are higher retentions and promotions. Organizations with sponsorship programs see higher retention and promotion rates among women. Enhanced visibility. Women who receive sponsorship have greater visibility, and access to a larger network, which can directly impact your career trajectory. Leadership development. Women in leadership roles who sponsor other women foster this cycle of support that we've been talking about, encouraging more women to pursue technical and leadership roles. Sponsorship programs also improve job satisfaction. Women with sponsors report better workplace dynamics and increased confidence in their own capabilities. And this is rewarding for sponsors too. Women who sponsor others feel more empowered to affect change and elevate others within their industry. Isn't that amazing? And then psychological safety and well-being. Sponsorship leads to greater psychological safety, reducing burnout and improving work-life balance overall. Again, all of these are scientific, researched facts, but they come from the stories of real women in the real world. That's just the transformative power of women supporting other women. And again, it's not just about helping someone get ahead, right? It's about creating an environment where women in tech and all industries can thrive. These are some of the organizations that I'm aware of that actively promote and facilitate sponsorship for women in tech. Google Women Techmakers, of course. AnitaB.org. She hosts the Grace Hopper celebration, which is like the world's largest gathering of women technologists. There's Catalyst, leanin.org, Microsoft Women in Tech, as well as the Female Quotient, which creates like intentional opportunities for women to connect with other influential leaders. And again, if you know of other organizations, I would love for you to put them in the chat. I am going to compile all of these, and hopefully Anna will be able to share them with everyone after. Okay, and our third actionable strategy is building networks. Strong professional networks are essential for career growth. They create a community, a tribe, a support system. When we engage in communities, we have the opportunity to connect with other like-minded individuals who might share our passions or have had similar challenges. We access opportunities we might not have known about on our own, and foster just a sense of belonging, reducing the feelings of isolation, which is incredibly important for women in tech. There's two key ways to build networks: in person and online. So in person would include industry events, conferences and workshops, just like this one, and joining professional organizations that are relevant to your field. And then online includes, again, just like this one, participating in forums, LinkedIn groups, and just social media. It's about being proactive, reaching out to ask questions, share your insights, or just to celebrate others. And this is another one of those things where it's a two-way street. When we give by supporting others and sharing our knowledge, we often receive in return. Networks are not just about, creating a web of support that empowers one person or just us. It's about empowering those around us, everyone. And let's talk about, just to support that, some of the tangible benefits of building strong networks, especially for women in tech. It's much more than just about connections, transforming not just your career, but also our well-being and confidence. Career advancements. Networks increase your visibility, recognition, and access to leadership roles. Being connected and supported leads to higher job satisfaction and greater organizational support. It improves our emotional well-being, as networks can provide emotional resilience and a sense of belonging that many of us are lacking. Professional development through mentorship, sponsorship, and networking. You get tailored support for skill building and career growth. getting the feedback from others that like, hey, I see you're good at X, and that made me think of this class, that could help you beef up those particular skills, that type of thing that we often kind of have blind spots for to ourselves. Supportive networks actually improve organizational commitment because feeling part of a community reduces turnover and increases advancement within careers. And of course, this includes diverse perspectives. The diversity that you can access, that you have access to in a supportive network, is going to introduce us to a different range of not just ideas and perspectives, but also opportunities. And then, for women-only networks, they're unique in the professional development that they can offer, and also the emotional support in a safe and inclusive space. Having a supportive network is not just a good idea. This is another one of those strategic imperatives for success and well-being in tech. We all need someone on our side. And again, if you know of other organizations, please feel free to put them in the chat. But these are some of the tech-focused organizations for networking that can help us to connect, learn, and grow. And I've tried to make each of the slides showing these organizations, with the exception of Women Techmakers. I think they're all, I don't think I overlapped any of them. So these are completely different than the ones we've looked at before. Women in Technology International, or WITI, the Elevate Network, Chief, chief.com is a private network for female executives or women executives. Women in STEM, which is womeninstem.org. It empowers women through networking and advocacy. There's also the Society of Women Engineers, the National Society of Black Engineers, and Out in Tech, which is networking and mentorship for LGBTQ plus professionals in tech. These organizations have valuable resources and communities, and I encourage everyone to explore them, find what resonates with them, and continue. I know you, because you're here, I know that you're building your network already. Continue that. So we have explored practical strategies for mentorship, sponsorship, and networking, which are crucial. And now let's talk a little bit in our last, as we're kind of wrapping up here before we get to questions, about something equally important, which is making sure our voices are heard. We want to make sure that every woman feels empowered to share her story, her ideas, her expertise. That's what this is all about. So to do that, we need to talk about something that's often a hidden barrier. I mentioned at the beginning that some of the obstacles women face are visible and some are not. And internalized biases would be one of those hidden barriers. So internalized biases, what is that? These are the subconscious beliefs that can lead women to undervalue our own skills, to shy away from leadership opportunities, or just to feel that pressure to conform to stereotypes. For women in tech, these biases can show up in the ways I just mentioned. But undervaluing your skills is about not really believing or thinking that you're as capable as you actually are. We might avoid leadership roles because we doubt our ability to lead, or we are afraid we won't be taken seriously. And this can also lead us to conforming to stereotypes, trying to fit into a mold that doesn't really represent who we are. And here's the thing about these, right? We may think that we don't believe any of these things, or that's not us, but these are not conscious choices. These are things that are deeply ingrained and can stick with us even without us realizing. One of the most powerful ways to combat these is through collective action, supporting one another, by sharing our experiences, challenging those biases together, and standing as a united front. We have the ability to dismantle both the internal and those external barriers that we face. And overcoming these biases or anything that's internalized is not a destination, right? It's one of those things that it's a journey. It requires regular self-reflection, regular support, recommitting to challenging those things. And it's worth doing, because when we break free from these constraints, not only do we unlock our own potential, but we pave the way for greater success and fulfillment for others. I'm sure all of us, for me, definitely, I see other women in presentations just like this one being themselves. You can tell they're behaving authentically and they're being genuine. And I think, wow, she just shared a flaw. Maybe I can share a flaw, like, because that made me feel, less alone, or it made me feel more normal. It matters. And the roots of, that's kind of what this here is about, the roots of these internalized biases, because we need to know where they come from. They don't just appear out of thin air. These unconscious biases are shaped through societal stereotypes, media portrayals, what we see on television, movies, hear in songs, as well as our personal experiences. They lead us to make assumptions and judgments without conscious thought, and often, about other women, but also about ourselves. When women don't see others like them succeeding or don't have mentors to guide them, this is when we can start to kind of doubt our own potential. That lack of support can reinforce the idea that we women don't belong here, or we're not capable. Another root cause of this is having a fixed mindset, kind of the phrase like, well, it is what it is, or that's how it's always been. That would be a fixed mindset that definitely holds disenfranchised groups back. I encourage a growth mindset, believing that any skill set, any ability can be developed, can be honed. And it's crucial for overcoming these things. So if we, don't do something great the first time, that's okay. All that means is we have space to learn there. And then in those unsupportive environments, there's discrimination, microaggressions, which are my, can a microaggression be a pet peeve? Because they're definitely, mine. And that's kind of how a lot of gender discrimination is now, right? It's not as, there is overt discrimination, but a lot of it are those microaggressions, those little tiny jabs that can start to wear us down. And if you combine this with a lack of recognition, this can definitely reinforce those negative self-perceptions and can make us feel like we don't belong. By understanding these roots, we are able to address those internalized biases more effectively. These are essential steps for us to overcome and reach our full potential. So how do we do that? How do we combat these internalized biases? What active steps can we take? So we already kind of took the first step. Congratulations. An awareness, of, do I have these thoughts? Where might these thoughts be presenting in my own life? There is, I should have put this on the slide, but Harvard has this, a tool called Project Implicit. So if you just Google Harvard Project Implicit, it's a implicit association test. It's a bias test. They can help us uncover hidden biases. I highly recommend it. I have my students do it all the time. There's all different kinds of little free quizzes. They're not really quizzes, but activities that you can go through to help you uncover biases in all different kinds of groups, just to get a deeper understanding of ourselves and our own mindset. And when you combine that with self-reflection, and educating ourselves on the statistics like we've done here today, this leads to a greater understanding overall. We've already talked about mentors and role models, finding someone who believes in you and seeing role models, seek them out. Look for the women who've broken barriers that can help us to challenge our own self-doubt. Cultivating growth mindset, as I've just mentioned. I just said to my 7-year-old son yesterday, who lost a $20 bill, he was feeling hard on himself, and I mentioned, we learned from it because we talked about where to keep our money safe and that type of thing. And I told him, if you learn from it, then it's not really a mistake. It was a learning opportunity. That's that growth mindset, believing in our own potential to grow. Investing in your professional development, as those of you who've attended any parts of this conference have already done, participating in these things can help us to build our skills, gain confidence, and expand our networks, which is the last point there. Surrounding yourself with other women in tech who understand your experiences and who can offer that encouragement and support is just wonderful to have a safe space like this one to share those challenges and celebrate those successes. Let's talk quickly about leveraging digital tools. Digital tools are powerful allies for us. They allow us to connect globally, as we're doing here today, enhance our careers, and build a strong online presence, as well as in-person presence. Your online presence, think of it like your digital handshake, right? It's how you connect with those mentors, sponsors, collaborators. It opens doors to unique opportunities. And I listed some of these organizations here that I have just found in my day-to-day activities as I'm searching for resources for other women and for myself that are more unique platforms to explore. ADP List is a worldwide mentorship. Tech Ladies, I think I mentioned that earlier. There's also Fairy God Boss, if anyone's ever heard of that, is for workplace reviews, so we can make more informed decisions for our career. There are also virtual reality networking platforms where you pick your avatar, and I don't know if anyone's had experience with these, but these are just different ways to kind of stand out and explore to help us advocate for ourselves and improve our own chances of success. I recommend creating a personal website or even just a niche blog. You can even use just LinkedIn for that. It can be incredibly successful. We can contribute to open source projects, and we can share our insights on platforms like LinkedIn, Medium, wherever you are, and you see something relevant to what it is that you do or what it is about, and you have a thought about it or something that you could add to it, a way that you can contribute to that, do it. Putting ourselves out there and being proactive is imperative. And finally, we covered a good bit already, but I do want to really drive home the power of diverse leadership, because it does just bring incredible benefits across the board. We've already mentioned that innovation and creativity, improving profitability and growth, diversity. When you have diverse leadership, not just diverse in gender, but diverse overall, it can improve employee satisfaction and retention, as it's creating that equitable culture. And so how can we support diverse women in tech? One is we can recommend women from underrepresented groups for leadership roles and promotions. In meetings, amplify the voices of other women. If you heard a comment be overlooked by another woman, take your turn and call that out and say, I think we might have overlooked an important point here, things like that. Mentoring and sponsoring others. We've already gone over those ways to do that in organizations that we can use to do that. And challenging biases or stereotypes, calling out those microaggressions or exclusionary behavior when we see it. One of the most amazing tactics that maybe you all have heard of, but that I've used so many times, when you hear a microaggression or something like that, someone makes some kind of offhanded remark that is, something that would normally fly under the radar, which are a lot of the microaggressions. The best strategy I've ever heard for combating that is simply saying, I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mind explaining that more to me, or do you mind elaborating? So, like when someone says to me, you know, oh, you'd be so much prettier if you smiled more, right? Then asking them, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean, and asking that person to elaborate. It's non-confrontational. It shows you're curious about their intentions, but it can also help the other person to understand, like, why am I saying that? Because a lot of what they're saying is simply those same ingrained stereotypes that we have as well. So, as we're wrapping up here before Q&A, I want all of us to remember that our actions matter. Together, we do have the power to build an industry where every woman thrives. And every step that we take, whether it's mentoring, amplifying voices, building a network, whatever, is creating that ripple effect. Here, we've recommended mentoring and sponsoring, joining communities like Women Techmakers or Tech Ladies, so on and so forth, to build those strong networks, amplifying voices, making sure that other women's voices are also heard and celebrated. And I mean, you could start this right now. If you thought of a woman at the beginning of this that, like, oh, that woman, she really did support me, send her a message, offer encouragement, or let her know that you're there for her too as well, because every one of those actions matters. So I would love to open the door for questions, comments, or insights, anything else here now that I've talked for an hour.